Welcome everybody to Informed Choice Connecticut's very first episode of Quarantine Academy. We have special guest, Dr. Matthew Patterna. He is of Shoreline Family Chiropractic in what town is it again?
West Haven. We're on the West Haven-Milford line.
Okay, great. And he's here tonight. We're going to go over some basics that some of you may already know, but we're also going to kind of have a deep conversation about why chiro is good for somebody and who would benefit from it and how, and go over just, all the ins and outs of it, because a lot of us are going stir crazy. So we decided to be social from a distance. So thank you for being here, Matt. Would you like to just introduce yourself and give a little brief bio to everybody and let us know a little bit about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Matt Patterna. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I've been practicing now for 15 years. And I guess a little bit about me. I went to the University of Bridgeport, local. And when I graduated, my whole thing was I wanted to, work with athletes. So I was the chiropractor for two professional baseball teams, local professional baseball teams, my first couple of years in practice. And somewhere about my third year, my patients started bringing me children. And I quickly realized that I actually loved that more than working with athletes. Not that I don't love working with athletes, but I really enjoyed working with kids. And it kind of shifted my whole paradigm. So I focused on seeing kids. I would say about 40% of my practice is under the age of 18. And we'll talk a little bit about, chiropractic for children. In my 15 years, I've been a two-term president of the Connecticut Chiropractic Council, which is one of our state organizations for chiropractors. My mother is the executive director of the Chiropractic Council. She's been that for 12 years. Many of you probably saw her up at the Capitol. She was at all of the hearings and everything.
She's a sweet lady too.
She's an amazing lady. So basically, we're referred to as the chiropractic mafia. We run chiropractic in the state. But no, I'm very, very, very involved in not only my profession, but also what's happening in the vaccine movement as well. So that's who I am.
Thank you so much. All right, awesome. So let's just jump right into some basics really quick, because I know that there's a lot of people in our community that know a lot of chiropractors or involved in our community, but they don't really know like the very simple basics about it. So can you tell us people the difference between a chiro and an MD? I think a lot of the times people, when they think about chiropractors, they hear like the old adage that, oh, chiros aren't real doctors, why are you going to go to them? And I think there's like such a misnomer there that really needs to be clarified. Can you clear that up?
Yeah, I mean, we hear that a lot, and glad you brought that up. Chiropractors are very much real doctors. According to the state of Connecticut, we are physicians. I think a lot of that negativity kind of stems from many, many years ago. Like your parents, maybe your grandparents, they were brought up maybe they were told not to see a chiropractor, but things have changed a lot. I would say that over the past 40 or 50 years, chiropractors have really moved to the forefront in terms of healthcare. We're accepted by all insurance companies. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we are, which should tell people that we're not voodoo. We are real doctors.
You're not quackery.
We're not quacks, but I always tease and say, listen, if a quack is a doctor who can get somebody better without drugs or surgery, then
call me a quack.
Call me a quack. I'm Donald Duck. I mean,
right on.
I'll own that.
I love it.
I think that what we do, is great. I would never say that what medical doctors do isn't great, because we absolutely need them. They have their place in the healthcare system. But chiropractors, as we're going to kind of unpack tonight, has their place as well. And it's definitely not an either or type of thing. I mean, most of my patients have a medical doctor and they have a chiropractor, but for two very different reasons.
Right. That's awesome. Okay, so how do you guys go to the same amount of schooling, the same length of time of schooling as a physician, MD?
A little more, actually. So what most people don't know is that chiropractors, 4 years of undergrad, where you have to get the undergrad training, the pre-med training, and then 4 years of chiropractic school. And in that 4 years, we do about 4,500 hours of study.
Wow.
And that's about 400 hours more than medical doctors.
Wow.
And the reason why is because as medical doctors are focusing more on, pharmacology, toxicology, biochemistry, and things of that sort, because they're focused more in medicine. Our focus is more on anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, kinesiology, and neurology, because that's what we focus on. We focus on movement, we focus on structure, we focus on function versus treatment of symptoms, which is again a very different approach to healthcare.
It's root cause.
Exactly.
Yeah. So why would someone want to choose chiro? Like what is it? What exactly is it, and why would someone choose it?
Yeah. So again, another great question. The reason why we're seeing more and more people today choose chiropractors than ever before is because people are looking for something that doesn't involve a drug, right? I mean, I think we've kind of gotten to a point in society where people are like, wait a second, you can't just take a pill for every single thing
right.
that's out there.
Right.
And I think that we're starting to see a movement from being very reactive to very proactive. We're starting to see it. Now, for the past 30 years, we've seen it go from proactive to reactive. And I can give you some statistics.
I mean, clearly, look at us.
Right. I mean,
we're all trying right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying not to go there too much, and I'll kind of frame some of this, conversation tonight around that, just because I know people are concerned about it. But, back in 1970, the United States was #1 in the world in overall healthcare. #1. And then over the past 40 to 50 years, we've seen this like rapid decline. Where the estimates are like we rank 37th out of 82 industrialized nations in overall healthcare, and 73 out of 82 industrialized nations in life expectancy.
Wow.
Which is just, that's not okay. I mean, we're the United States of America. We should be like, we should be the healthiest. We're not even close. And people will ask, well, why do you think that is? My response is it's very simple. I mean, if you look at, if you turn on the TV, right, and you're watching a show, and then the commercials come on, what kind of commercials do we see?
Pharma, all pharma commercials.
Yeah, I mean, 3 out of 5 commercials are for pharmaceutical ads. Mm-hmm. And it's the first 15 seconds is what the drug is, and the next 45 seconds is what? The side effects, how it's going to kill you or how it's going to harm you. But yet Americans have become so numb to this that they don't even realize that they're being brainwashed to the tune of $30 billion a year. Mm-hmm. So that's how much money is put into pharmaceutical advertising. So we've become a nation that has taken pharmaceuticals and turned it into a consumer item. And we, the United States, are the only country in the world that does this, with the exception of one other, New Zealand, but they're like, this big, and
yeah, they're like New York.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. It's, I mean, that's it. We're the only country that does that. So we've basically gone from a country that's been very healthy and vibrant and proactive to a country that has become completely dependent on medication and pharmaceuticals. And it's just now that we're starting to see this shift. And I could tell you that like the millennials are really leading that, because they are looking at it's very interesting. I would say that about 30 to 40% of my new patients now are between the ages of 20 and 30.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was never the case, because I mean, they're paying out of pocket mostly for this. This isn't free. And they're doing it because they're seeing their parents and their grandparents, and they're like, I don't want any part of that. I don't want, the average 40-year-old is on 4 medications. The average 50-year-old is on 5 medications. The average 60-year-old is on 6 medications. It's like every decade of life, you're being put on another medication.
When my 83-year-old grandfather passed away, he was on 19 different medications. They had an Excel spreadsheet we had to bring with us every time we went to the hospital.
Yeah, and it's incredible. But they bought into it. like your parents and your grandparents, they bought into this, and now people are starting to see what it really is. And you can't live your life, just taking a drug for every little thing that you have.
Exactly.
And, so,
So let's see what we have here. I have so many good questions that I wrote down, and I want to try to get to them, and then we'll open it up to a Q&A later.
Sure.
As we get through this list, it's not very long. So we went through what is chiro. Well, did we really talk about what is chiro?
We could go into it more.
like how about explain the different types of chiropractors, and then maybe go through the steps of a typical visit.
Okay.
What people can expect.
With chiropractic is a lot like medicine in that there are different specialties within chiropractic. As I mentioned, I specialize with children, but we see people of all ages in our practice, but we definitely have an emphasis on kids and children. But there are practices that focus strictly just on back and neck pain and car accidents, and I think that's what a lot of people think chiropractic is like, I've got back and neck pain, so I'm going to go to the chiropractor, and they're going to make some noises in my spine. And that's more of like a mechanistic chiropractic, where they kind of focus more on the symptoms, and they're more aligned with like the medical profession. And then there's chiropractors like myself that are more vitalistic, meaning that we have a greater respect for how a human being functions and how they work. And it's not, when a patient comes to me with back pain, my job isn't to get rid of their back pain. My job is to help their body get healthier, so your body does the healing. And the one thing that we teach our patients is that we are not, the best doctor in the world is not the one that's on TV like Sanjay Gupta, and the best doctor in the world is not the one that's talking to you right now. The best doctor in the world is the one that's sitting listening to this right now, right? Your body. What's that? Yeah.
Your own body.
Your own body, exactly. Your body is equipped with this amazing potential to heal, and that's one of the things that we focus on in our office. Is we talk about this concept called innate intelligence, and it's the intelligence that created your body. And I always ask people, I said, if you think about how you were created, and I'm getting a little deep here, but bear with me for a second. If you think about how you were created by two cells, a sperm cell and an egg cell. And those two cells, over time created what's sitting here today. But the very first thing that is created when you're in utero is your nervous system. It's your spinal cord and your nerves. And then off of all those nerves grow all of your organs, your muscles, your tissues, your cells, your glands. Every single function in the human body is created and controlled by your central nervous system. And what we teach our patients in our office is that central nervous system is what you need to keep healthy in order to keep the rest of your body functioning optimally. So what does that have to do with a chiropractor? Well, I just happen to have a spine. I wanted to share this with you.
Quarantine Academy.
That's right.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, you can learn no matter what happens. You don't have to leave your house to learn. I wish I could adjust you through this computer right now, but I'm going to give you a mental adjustment right now, okay? Right. So here we go. So your central nervous system is your brain, your spinal cord, and then all these little things here called nerves, right? So for those of you who've never been to a chiropractor, this is what we focus on. At least in our office, this is what we focus on. And what we know is that these bones, you have 24 bones in your spine, and this is a suit of armor. This is what's protecting what controls everything in your body. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. But these bones can move. And we know if these bones can move, they can move out of place. Just like your car can go out of alignment, your spine and your body can go out of alignment. And
they do.
And they do. And I could go into another hour of how that can happen, but I can give you the basics. Bending, twisting, falling, sleeping funny, picking something up, childbirth, you name it. There's so many things. Sports, you think about, what's that? Sneezing, coughing. There's so many ways your spine can go out of alignment. But when it does, it starts to put pressure on these nerves or on the spinal cord. So a nerve, people think of a nerve, they think of pain. But only a small part of your nerve can actually feel pain, which is why you're not in pain all the time, right? Only about 4 to 5% of a nerve can actually feel anything. The rest of the nerve, its job is to send signals and messages, right? So if you're putting pressure on that nerve, it will affect the signal or the message going to whatever part of your body. And when I say that to somebody, they're like, really? Never really thought of that. I'm like, well, what runs next to a nerve in many parts of your body is an artery. And if you put pressure on an artery, is that going to slow the flow of blood down? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, it's the same thing. So wherever that nerve is going, if there's pressure on it, would you expect that part of your body to work better or worse?
A little bit worse, I would say.
I would say worse, absolutely. And would that increase stress or decrease stress in your body? Of course, it would increase stress.
For sure, for sure.
So one of the things that we talk about in our office is keeping your body strong and healthy, your immune system, right? You think about all the systems in your body. You've got your respiratory system, your cardiovascular system, you have your digestive system and your reproductive system. I mean, there's so many different systems in your body, but the one system that we're all focused on right now is our immune system. And, your immune system is directly affected by your nervous system. And if your nervous system isn't functioning at 100%, I can guarantee you that your immune system is not functioning at 100% either. And I think the one thing, if we want to frame this conversation into what's happening right now, I think this is the one time that a lot of us are very humble, by this particular virus, because there is no quote unquote cure. There is no vaccine. I'm sure they're working on one, but there's no protection against it in terms of what people think, what they're used to. So the only protection you have is your healthy body, right? And the healthier you are, the greater the outcome is. And that's what we're hearing about this particular virus. We're hearing from Italy today that greater than 99% of the fatalities are from people that have pre-existing conditions. Greater than 95% of the people that are in the hospital are because they had pre-existing conditions. Now, my message to my patients isn't that, if you get adjusted, it's going to boost your immune system. My message to my patients is, if you get adjusted, your body's just going to be healthier. And that includes your immune system. It includes all your systems. So that's why we see patients during this whole thing.
I love it. So to further on about when you get adjusted, your body's going to feel healthier. I want to talk a little bit about people who have never received chiro, because I know from like a personal story of mine, when I first started receiving chiro, my first adjustment, I was really nervous and I didn't know how to properly receive chiro. And
Sure.
So it can cause some discomfort if you're not understanding of what is about to happen and why, and what body position you need to be in, the relaxation techniques you have to breathe, things like that. So what are some pro tips to offer somebody who's never been adjusted before when they're walking in, ways that they can protect themselves from having a discomfort after an adjustment?
Sure.
Because they maybe were a little tense or something like that. And maybe
Exactly.
what chiro is right for you. How do you find what chiro is right for you?
Yeah. Well, hey, there's a couple questions in there. So let me go with the first one. Is how do we keep people calm? Well, let me actually go to your first question, which is, going into a chiropractor, why are people nervous? And I think that one of the main reasons why people haven't gone to a chiropractor, and I would say, if I'm talking to 100 people, I would say that 50 of them have never been to a chiropractor. And the other 50 have been to a chiropractor, and about of that, half of them are under regular chiropractic care. So I'm probably talking to that group right now. So for those of you who've never been to a chiropractor, the number one reason why you have not gone is because you're most likely you're worried or you're afraid. You think something bad's going to happen. And I can tell you that going to a chiropractor is far safer than getting into your car or even walking in my parking lot. I always tell my patients, you have a much greater chance of getting injured out there than you do getting injured in my office. Interesting fact is that chiropractors have the lowest malpractice of any doctor out there. The average chiropractor pays $2,000 a year in malpractice. I'll say that again.
Wow. A lot of doctors pay that.
They pay that a week.
Wow.
The average medical doctor is over $100,000 a year. So, I mean, yeah, we pay per year what they pay per week. And I'm not saying, again, but why is that true? Because we don't injure people on a regular basis. And I mean, that's basically what it boils down to.
Oh my gosh.
Right? So, and again, I'm not bashing medical doctors because, again, they have a role, but with all the medicine and all the surgery, they actually, they do injure people. We do not on any regular basis. So that being said,
injured.
What's that?
What's a good way not to get injured when you're going in? You're about to get an adjustment. You've never had one before. What's the
absolutely 100%. So in our office, and I'm going to say this, in our office, before we ever adjust you, we spend about an hour with you, and we go through a very thorough and in-depth history because I want to know what's happened to you up until this point. Were you somebody who's been in multiple accidents? What kind of work do you do? Is it physical? Have you had? Did you play sports growing up? Was there a lot of impact with that? Have you had previous concussions? Do you have digestive problems? Do you have sleeping issues? All these things, we kind of unpack all of that information in the first visit because we want to understand where you are now and what your goals are going forward, right? But before we even adjust you, we take x-rays. We do x-rays in our office because I want to see what I'm adjusting. Now, I'm not going to x-ray a pregnant woman, and I'm not going to x-ray kids that are super young. But if there's a compelling reason to, I absolutely will, because the more information that we have, the more we can be sure of A, what we're going to adjust, and B, more importantly, if there's a reason we shouldn't adjust you, right? Because that's when chiropractors run into problems. And over the years, we've identified people that we shouldn't adjust. And they had some significant structural issues, and there were certain areas of their spine that we couldn't adjust. So we stayed away from that. So I would say that putting people at ease the first visit is very important. Obviously when you have confidence in your doctor, your anxiety levels start to come down. So, if I walked in, like the first time I went to a chiropractor, I was literally on a table within 5 minutes of being in that office. Now, I didn't know any better. It was my first chiropractor. So I got adjusted. I felt great and I was happy.
My first adjustment was on the fly on a table behind a cubicle at the Red Pill Expo. So right. I have a very unique experience for my first adjustment, but right. I think that does go a long way. Your level of anxiety really can make or break. I know some people who do breathing exercises before they go in to receive chiro. I know people who get massages before they go in to receive chiro, so they're completely relaxed enough. Sure. For me, I found the best thing to do was to communicate to my chiropractor, I'm nervous. Please tell me what you're going to do before you do anything.
Absolutely.
So I can prepare and take a deep breath and let my body go limp and allow you to manipulate whatever adjustment you need to adjust. When you adjusted me the day after, I don't know, it was the public hearing or the public health committee meeting, I said it right to you. When you went and did my neck, I said, this gives me incredible anxiety to have my neck adjusted. And you were like, okay. And you talked me through the whole thing. And it was, I calmed right down. I wanted to curl up and go to sleep right there in the booth.
Yeah. You have to meet people where they're at.
Yes.
It's like, wherever they're at, you have to meet them. And yeah, we have that conversation. I mean, if we have 15, 20 new patients a week, I would say half of them come in and they look scared. I'm like,
yeah.
And I would say, listen, I understand, we get it, but there's really no reason for you to be fearful. We're gonna take all the necessary precautions, and we're gonna talk you through the entire adjustment. And when you're done, you're gonna walk out of here and be like, wow, that was really not bad at all. And
so, do all chiropractors only use their hands?
No. So here's the thing about chiropractors. Again, you can go to 100 different chiropractic offices and you will observe 100 different things. It is the beauty of chiropractic, and it's also the confusion behind it, I think, because I think some of the public doesn't necessarily understand what we do because there is so much variety in how we practice. But to answer your question, most chiropractors will use a traditional manual adjustment. I like to use the word adjustment versus manipulation. Uh, the main reason is because an adjustment, the intention behind an adjustment is to not only get movement, but to get movement and get pressure off of a nerve.
Realign it.
The realignment to get pressure off of a nerve to allow for better function. A manipulation is something that's just done to, to get better range of motion. And that could be done by a physical therapist or a massage therapist or an osteopath. So it's a little different in intention. But different chiropractors do different things. Some chiropractic offices will do an adjustment, and then they'll do like some sort of physical therapy, or they'll do, some stretching or some massage. Again, depending upon where you go, you'll see a whole variety of different things. In my particular practice, we focus on the adjustment.
An activator.
Oh, what's an activator? So an activator is an instrument. It looks like a little plunger.
It looks like a rubber band gun.
Yeah, exactly. It does look like a rubber band gun. Exactly. And what it does is it just gives a very quick impulse. So when you put it onto the spine and you click it, and it gives like a little vibration.
Click.
And it's just a different type of adjustment. We have that in my office as well. We use that probably on like 1% to 2% of our patients. There are some patients who are either osteoporotic and they don't do well with manual adjustment, or they just can't handle one. We use it on infants, especially with the little infants. We'll sometimes use the activator for certain adjustments. And again, it just gives a little impulse to create the adjustment. So yeah, but again, different chiropractors do different things. If you're looking for a chiropractor who's doing more hands-on, that's kind of what I prefer. But if you don't like the hands-on, then the activator is definitely the way to go.
So I just have 2 more questions, and then I want to open it up because we do have questions coming in the chat. So one is about the babies. Like, how important is it for babies to get adjusted? What types of conditions can you alleviate in babies with regular chiro care?
Okay, so 100% absolutely, babies should be getting adjusted. At the very least, they should be getting checked. And that's actually what we focus on. Is we focus on checking people, because not everybody's going to be out of alignment, and not every baby is going to be out of alignment. So we always check before we adjust, and we only adjust what's out of alignment. So you've got 24 bones in the spine. We're not adjusting all 24 of them when you come in. We're just adjusting the ones that are out of alignment. So why would a baby need an adjustment? They weren't in a car accident, or they didn't fall down the stairs.
Traumatic.
Think about it. Birth, exactly. Very good. So if you ask a mom, do babies come flying out, or they're usually pulled and twisted? Most moms are going to say there was probably some pulling and twisting involved. So they've done some studies, and what they found is about 90% of all births result in some sort of spinal trauma. And what I mean by that is that when they're pulling and they're twisting, what are they pulling on? They're pulling on the skull. And that skull is attached to the top of your spine. Well, the most vital part of your entire anatomy, I get excited when I talk about this, if you haven't noticed.
Trauma when you talk about it, my son.
But the most vital part of your anatomy is right up here at the very top of your spine. And it's where your brain stem is. It's where your brain and spinal cord come together. And the top 2 bones in your spine are protecting that brain stem. The brain stem is the conductor, and that's the part of your body that controls all the signals going to and from the brain and telling it where to go. It's like a traffic cop, right? So if those 2 bones are out of alignment, that is not good as compared to the others. None of them are good, but those 2 are the most important, right? And during the birthing process, when they're pulling and twisting on that skull, those bones can shift. Now, you will survive, but you're not going to thrive if your body is out of alignment. And we call this a subluxation. That's the only big word that chiropractors use. It's a subluxation. It's when your spine shifts and it's putting pressure on the nerves or the spinal cord. So if your baby was pulled and twisted, and most of them were, then chances are they're going to be subluxated. And that subluxation can affect wherever that nerve is going. So for some babies, they have problems with reflux, right? So, we'll see babies that have issues with reflux. Constipation. We see babies that haven't pooped for days. I could share a quick story with you. I would say that I was probably in my 6 month of practice, and I was explaining to one of my patients that we could possibly help with constipation just because of the adjustments. And she said, my sister has a baby who hasn't pooped in almost a week, and the baby's only 11 days old, and they're going to do a procedure. And I said, well, get that baby in here now, like right now. And she brought the baby in. I did a couple of adjustments, and within like 30 seconds, the baby like exploded all over the room. And
customer for life.
Yeah, and I shared that story with one of my friends who's a pediatrician, and she brought her baby in, and same thing, it hadn't pooped for a few days. And I said, listen, if your kid doesn't poop between now and the time you walk out of the office, I'll buy you lunch. And sure enough, her son pooped before he even left the table. So now that pediatrician sends me babies all the time that can't poop, and she basically tells people, go see Dr. Patterna, he'll adjust the shit out of your kids.
I love it. Wow, well, you got me sold on that one.
Here's the thing, but I want people to understand something real quick. We do not cure constipation. We do not cure acid reflux. We do not cure colic. We do not cure back pain. We do not cure respiratory issues or sinuses or allergies or headaches or migraines. None of these things we cure. The only thing that we do is we get your body functioning better. Your body does the healing. We remove whatever is interfering. Period.
So I have one last question, and then actually maybe two, and then I'd like to open it up because we have questions coming in here. Mm-hmm. I've heard people say once you get a chiropractic adjustment, you have to go for life. But I also hear that it is important to go regularly when you are getting adjusted. Can you kind of give us the nutshell version of that?
Yeah, no, that's true. Once you get adjusted, you're addicted.
It's really good. I admit. I love it.
You have to go forever. Listen, my patients ask that question all the time. I heard that once you go, you get addicted and you have to go forever. Not true. People come to no one's chained to the chiropractic office, right? But I can tell you this: people who get adjusted and they do it for a period of time, and they see the difference between where they were when they started and where they were like a couple months later, there's no compelling reason to go back to that, right? Once you determine that eating broccoli is good for you, and every time you eat broccoli, you have more energy and you just feel better, when would you stop eating broccoli? Right? You would eat broccoli for the rest of your life because it has a positive impact on your health. Exactly. Now, for some, go ahead.
I was just saying, I was agreeing with you. I enjoy it and would go regularly. And once we get into our new house, we're going to be finding a new provider and setting up some regular adjustments because we feel so much better when we go.
Absolutely. And by the way, for people who are looking for a chiropractor, I'm in West Haven. I don't expect people to drive an hour to come to visit my office. But if you're looking for a chiropractor in your town, in the chat, just write down the town that you're in. And I happen to know there's about 950 chiropractors in the state. I know about 800 of them. I know who's good.
Some referrals out there.
Yeah, I'll tell you who's good and who sucks. I'll let you know right off the bat. I'll send you to the best chiropractor in your area. So, and I do that for my patients, and I love nothing more than to refer to other chiropractors and other doctors, even other medical doctors and physical therapists, because the more I put out, the more comes back at me. And I've always been that way. So it gives me a lot of joy to do that. Obviously, if you want to come visit me, that's cool. Come down and visit me down in my practice. We're on the water. Our practice is on the beach, so it's not such a bad place to come visit.
Not at all. Not at all. So my last question for you before we jump in is, why do so many chiropractors I know not vaccinate their kids?
Ooh, all right. Well, kind of going back to what we were just talking about a second ago. So many of the chiropractors that practice the way I do, as I started before, I said that I'm a vitalistic chiropractor, which means I have a tremendous respect for the human body. And I know that we were created to be healthy. Health is the state of normal, all right? But because we're brought up in this country at this time, we're taught that health is not normal, and that it's a rarity, and that you need to have something from the outside come into you for you to be healthy. And that's an outside in approach. But the premise is wrong. Health comes from the inside out, right? And if you've ever listened to Larry Palevsky talk about, the human body has 20,000 genes that code for your DNA, but 120,000 genes that code for viruses and bacteria. Like, that should just give you a little bit of like, holy crap, my body is a machine. It's a badass, and it can do a lot. I mean, that's the idea, is that the human body has this amazing ability to heal, and we're born with that. So for a lot of chiropractors like myself, the idea of introducing this outside agent that is just loaded with toxicity and chemicals for the purpose of temporary immunity, aside from all the side effects, just doesn't, it goes against our entire philosophy.
Antithetical to supporting the body in its own, and supporting the body to do everything.
Yeah. We have this amazing innate intelligence that controls everything, and that can handle we're created that way. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why you see so many chiropractors who are on your side and are completely supportive of you. Because listen, if there's a big difference between a medical doctor and a chiropractor, it's this: we focus on being proactive and keeping you healthy. We're the health doctors, right? They position themselves as the sick doctors, right? If you're sick, you go to the medical doctor. But if you want to stay well, you go to the chiropractor.
That's just so simple and so easy, and it makes so much sense.
Simplicity is my number one value, right? It is, because the simplest explanation is always the best one. And what is more simple than, if your spine is out of alignment and it's compressing a nerve, it's going to affect how your body works. And if you take pressure off the nerve, your body's going to work better.
It's so simple, and I love simplicity, so I know I definitely appreciate it. I have our first question from the group, and was Matt the cool chiropractor who once posted, "Tell me why you don't want a flu shot," on the windows of his office around 2010 to 2012? It was next to his studio where I once worked out of West Haven Milford line. Was that you?
Oh yeah.
That's so great.
That sign goes up a couple times a year.
I love it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's thanks for bringing that up. That's great.
I think that's so great. And then other states are closing chiropractors, but not regular medical doctors. Has Matt heard that here? I know you and I talked a little bit about that earlier today.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning. It depends, it really depends on the relationship that the chiropractors have with the board and the health department. So, I called the Department of Health on Monday, and I asked them, I said, I introduced myself as the past president of the Connecticut Chiropractic Council. And I said, I'm getting a lot of calls. What's your plan? And they said, we expect you to be open as long as the medical doctors are open.
Great. Well, that's hopeful. I'm happy to hear that.
So I'm praying that that's the case, because for me, we're there to serve, and for the people that are out and working, we want to help them. And for the people that are at home and don't want to leave the house, we're going to help them too. But we're going to do things like this. We're going to do Zooms, and we're going to talk about how to keep yourself healthy and well outside of chiropractic. That's another conversation.
Another conversation. Yeah. Where is your office located, and do you take insurance? I know we said you were in West Haven. Yes. And you take all types of insurance?
Yeah, we take most insurance. It really just depends on what it is. But I would say most insurance covers chiropractic. I also said most insurance these days have high deductibles and high copays. So for people who have situations like that, we cap our visits at $45.
Oh, wow. That's really helpful.
Yeah. So that's actually better, because if for some insurance, we have to charge 75 because we're in network. But if we're out of network, then we don't have to follow their rules.
Okay, well, that's pretty awesome.
So, you know.
So if it ever did come about to where, and this is me questioning because I'm such a lover of civil disobedience, if it ever did come to where the DPH said chiros have to close, do you think you and your buddies would say no?
That's a great question. I would say that we would.
How far would we let this go?
Knowing me and my buddies, the ones that you see, my buddies are the ones that you see up in Hartford with everybody else. We would resist that until they actually physically came down and shut us down. They would have to physically come and do it. I mean,
I wonder about the compliance. The compliance is the biggest thing that scares me. Is how many people are complying.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is and listen, I got a big old target on my back because of who I am and what I do, and you know, so you know, but I'm used to it and I'm okay with it. Listen, chiropractors have been going to jail for a very long time. My predecessors had to endure, practicing without a license because certain states didn't recognize chiropractic for many, many years. And just to give you a quick, chiropractic is 124 and a half years old. We're going to be 125 in September.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. That's 30 years older than the medical profession. So our little brothers have been causing us problems for a very long time. But no, I mean, the people the shoulders that I stand on, those guys, they had to fight the fight. We don't have to fight the fight anymore because we're so well accepted.
We're thankful that they made the sacrifices they made so that you can continue to bring services like this to the masses and help.
And that's why that's why we're in our practice. A lot of there are chiropractors who shut their offices, but they operate on a different premise. If they're taking care of back and neck pain all day, well, then there's no reason for them to be open because in their mind, that's not an emergency. For me, we don't take care of back and neck pain. We take care of people's health,
the whole human,
the whole person, and therefore we play a huge role in a time like this because we're helping people stay strong and healthy. So it gives them a better chance.
Speaking of staying strong and healthy, are there certain sleep positions that could help support or actually do not help the adjustment they just had? Like, can I sleep in a certain position that will make my adjustment less effective?
If anybody on here can actually control the position they sleep in, I'd be very impressed. I don't know anybody who can stay in one spot their entire night. I would say start on your side. I think that's probably, start on your side or your back. But for the most part, you can't sleep on your stomach because unless you have like
my favorite.
Me too. Unless you have like a chiropractic table where you can put your head and you can breathe. The problem is you're going to have to do this.
I know.
Or this, or you're going to suffocate. And your body won't let you suffocate. So it's going to turn your head this way. So imagine sitting at your computer like this for 8 hours. That wouldn't be very good for you. And neither would sleeping like that. So sleeping on your side, I think is probably the best. The field position is real. I think that's probably the best.
I like to sleep on my back with no pillow and keep my whole spine and neck totally straight.
If you can do that, fantastic. I know most people can't do that, but that's fine too. Yeah, whatever's keeping your spine neutral. That's probably the best thing. Good question.
Thank you very much. I think actually we're about to wrap up. I just want to put out another shout out to if there's any more questions that came in. We had a lot of really good questions tonight. Looking here in the chat. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. You were the cool chiropractor. We talked about closing. I think that was about it. We got a lot of good questions in tonight.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you want to add in closing about trying to maybe remain positive and things you can do in your own home not to get your spine all jacked up?
Yeah, no, I think the most important thing, especially if we want to frame it again into what's happening right now, is just keep yourself calm. Try not to focus too much on the news. Keep your stress levels down. Obviously, as a chiropractor, we know that stress is the number one thing that's going to cause your immune system to get weaker because it increases cortisol. The more cortisol your body's producing, the less your immune system is working. And right now, the one system that you really need working better than anything else is your immune system. But
Sure.
of course, your nervous system is controlling that, so you also have to take that into consideration as
All
well.
working together.
All working together. Just make sure that you're taking time, spend time with your family. Take advantage of that. I'm hoping that what comes out of this, the good that comes out of this, obviously, is that it brings us closer together, but it also starts to, you know, make people more aware of their health and how important it is
So
to
I have
keep your health.
Thank you very much for that, because people are at home a lot now, and so they need to know that while you're at home, remaining calm, and
Yeah.
stress levels affect your nervous system and things. But we do have another question. Can you explain how seeing a chiropractor would help with a child that gets ear infections?
Yes. Yeah. So I threw a couple out earlier. So I would think the number one thing that we get recommendations for from pediatricians for children is ear infections. So ear infections, colic, and reflux. Those are like the big ones. Constipation is there as well. I mean, those are like the main ones. So why does it work for ear infections? Very simply, your eustachian tube drains the fluid in the ear, right? That tube runs inside your neck, and there's muscles surrounding it. So if the muscles are tight, because the nerve controlling the muscles if the muscles are tight, it's going to squeeze the tube, and then the fluid gets backed up. And that stagnant fluid is a perfect place for bacteria to grow. So it's not so much that you have the ear infection; it's that the tube is not draining. So when we do an adjustment, it relaxes the nerve, it relaxes the muscle, and then the fluid will start to drain immediately. And that's it. Very simple.
So simple. I had known that before. My son had like 11 antibiotic prescriptions for ear infections in his first 2 years of life.
Yeah, and I see the question. The same is true for sinus infections.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, that's the reason why I became a chiropractor, because I went to a chiropractor because I was having the most common thing that you could have for chiropractor. I had back pain. So I went to the chiropractor, and he put me on the table and he adjusted me. And I told you, he didn't really talk to me. He never asked me about my sinuses or any other part of me. But he did adjust my neck. And when I walked out of the office, I was like, I feel a little better, a little lighter, like clearer. And I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next morning in the exact same space I went to bed. And I was one of those people that woke up like 10 times a night, and I would like thrash, and I literally fell asleep and woke up in the exact same spot. When I woke up the next morning, I could literally breathe through my nose, like fully breathe through my nose. And it was amazing, because that has never happened. Like, I was one of those. I used to live on Sudafed. I used to live on all sorts of stuff. I took a lot of medication.
Me too, when I was younger.
And I didn't know any better. So I went back to the chiropractor that day, and I said, "What the hell did you do to me?" I'm like, "I can breathe through my nose." And he said, "Well, I adjusted you." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He said, "It was simple. There was pressure on your nerves. I took the pressure off your nerves, and now your body's working better."
It works the way it's supposed to work.
I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Damn." I'm like, "How do you become a chiropractor?" That was the day I decided. My second visit to the chiropractor, I was going to chiropractic school.
That's amazing.
And it was because and to this day, I've not gotten a sinus infection. And this is now 16 years. No, excuse me. No, I'm sorry, not 16 years. I was 24, 23 years. Yeah. Wow. I've not had one sinus infection in 23 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Look,
well, we really appreciate you coming here and sharing all this information. There was so many good questions tonight, and I'm sure we'll get more. We'll be inspired. And thank you, because you were our very first guest for Quarantine Academy. And that was really exciting too. I think we might have frozen up. Did you freeze up? Did I freeze up? Let me see. Oh, I think we might be losing Dr. Patterna. Are you there, Matt? Oh. Matt, I think you're frozen, buddy. Well, I just want to thank everybody who came in tonight for Quarantine Academy. Again, Dr. Matthew Patterna, Shoreline Family Chiropractic out in West Haven. His website and another resource website are in the comments to this live. And Matt, if you can hear us, thank you so much for being our first guest on Quarantine Academy. And we will talk to everybody soon. Thanks, everybody.